We know by this time that Franklin Graham is not only one of the primary unflagging, completely faithful supporters of Donald Trump, but in the midst of that, he's shown his utter moral corruption. And the Epstein files is just the latest example of that. So we all know the story by this time. Donald Trump has been doing everything he can over the last 9 months to keep the Epstein files sealed because he's been informed by Pam Bondi, his Department of Justice, at the head of the Department of Justice, that his name is all over the Epstein files. We know that Donald Trump was best friends with Epstein throughout the 90s and into the 2000s, that in 2002, he gave Epstein a birthday card well wish in which he talked about every day being a wonderful secret, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We know that Epstein had a massage table in the center of his living room. That might have raised interesting questions. Donald Trump said himself that Epstein loves beautiful women, especially young women, Trump said. Trump himself has a long history of having interest in females of younger age. I mean, I would say Donald Trump is sexually omnivorous, but he did boast about intentionally going into the Miss Teen USA pageant dressing room in order to catch these teenage girls in various states of nakedness. He, of course, bragged about sexually assaulting women. He's been credibly accused of sexually assaulting and sexually harassing more than 2 dozen women. He was found on the balance of probabilities to have sexually abused E. Jean Carroll. We could go on and on and on. His first wife accused him of rape. So this is Donald Trump we're talking about. If his name is all over the Epstein files and he is doing all he can to prevent those files from being released, and if he refuses to meet with the women, 1,000 of them who were sexually to meet with any of the women that were sexually abused by Epstein, and if Donald Trump says the whole Epstein files thing is a Democrat hoax, so all of these women somehow they're part of a grand hoax to attack Trump. When you add all of that up, yeah, he looks guilty as sin. Of what exactly? We don't know, but let's release the files. And I would think any Christian who purports, I mean, anybody who purports to be a follower of Christ and yet is complicit in helping people cover up their relationship with the world's most notorious pedophile, you're a pretty disgusting Christian if that's who you are. That brings us finally to Franklin Graham. This is what he posted 4 or 5 days ago on Facebook. He says in America, I'm not going to, well, I was going to attempt to do his North Carolina accent. I will not subject you to that. I'll just read it. He says, in American politics right now, the Epstein files are a major focus. What many are wanting to see whether they can find any damaging information is whether they can find any damaging information about President Donald J. Trump's connection to Jeffrey Epstein, who pleaded guilty to sex crimes and then later died in prison. They may find this inquiry to be a double-edged sword because there are likely many people not currently on the radar whose sins may come to light. Okay, let's just pause there first of all. So Graham is saying, hey, if you want to get the Epstein files released, you better appreciate that that's a double-edged sword because other people may be implicated as well. Pardon me, but what the hell is your problem, Franklin Graham? Do you think that people are concerned about protecting pedophiles? What is wrong with you? Do you think that if Bill Clinton is implicated or Bill Gates is implicated, that anybody gives a damn? Don't you think that people want those people to come to justice if they sexually abuse children, just like they would want Epstein and Donald Trump to come to justice if they sexually abuse children? But Franklin Graham is so corrupt in his mind that when people say we want the files to be released, we want to see what relationship Trump has to Epstein in the files, he's essentially saying, yeah, but it could also implicate Democrats or other people. So what? Are you so partisan that you'd rather protect a pedophile because that pedophile happened to be a Republican? And you then project that morally corrupt reasoning that you have onto people who want the files released? Because that's pretty sick. We continue on. He says, did you know that God has a file on each one of us? The Epstein files are nothing compared to God's files. His file on us goes much deeper than just what we've said or done. He knows our thoughts, desires, and motives. Jesus applied the 10 Commandments to the sins of the heart. By his standard, not one of us is without sin. One day we will stand before God and everything will be revealed. And I mean everything. Okay, he's going to go on babbling here. Essentially, what he's doing is he's appealing to Matthew chapter 7, do not judge unless you be judged, to sort of suggest, hey, we're all sinners here. Yeah, maybe Trump had some illicit relationships with 16-year-old girls. Maybe they hadn't quite reached the age of consent. But hey, everybody's got something in their file, right? And we're all sinners. This is such a craven and depraved manipulation of Christian doctrine, and all to protect an adjudicated sexual abuser and his attempt to cover up his relationship with the world's most notorious pedophile. That is how, sorry, dog scratching. I'm going to stop him. That is how corrupt Franklin Graham is. He's running interference for Trump. He's trying to throw out a red herring by saying, we're all sinners here. This is a classic attempt of an abuser. Not that Franklin Graham here I'm saying is an abuser, but it is the attempt of abusers and those who empower them to deflect from attention to them and culpability and responsibility being placed upon them. That's what he's doing here. And you have to be pretty sick to be running interference for an adjudicated sexual abuser and best friends with former best friends with the world's most notorious pedophile and his attempt to cover up his relationship to that pedophile. Absolutely disgusting.